محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أذاك بالله أبطأ من ضعف؟ فقال: يا فاطمة أتيني بالكساء اليمني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليمني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر عليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه بدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. اللهم صل على. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولد الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا قرتين وثمرة فوادي. فقال: يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فما صل على محمد وآله. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جدا يا رسول الله، أتذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي وصاحب هذه، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولد الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرتين وثمرة فوادي. فقال لي: يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جده والسلام عليك يا من اختار الله، وتظن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويشاء في أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. ما صل على محمد وآله. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبو الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة غقي بن أمير رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو ما ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء فقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتظن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ وقال له: عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب اللواء، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. صل على محمد وآل محمد. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتا يا رسول الله، أتذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنت يا بزعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. صل على محمد وآل. فلما اكتملنا جميع تحت الكساء أخذ برسول الله وتراه في الكساء وأمي بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: السلام عليكم. وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وهامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يعلمني ما يعلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن أداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم. فجل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي وسكان السماوات، إنما خلقت السماء مبنية والأرض مدية ولا قمرا منيرا وشمسا مزية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء خمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال أمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة معدن رسالته، هم فاطمة أبوها وبالها وبنوها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال جبرائيل يا رب أتنا لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا. فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فأهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرأك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمس مزية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم. وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله عليه السلام يا أمين وهي الله إنهم نام قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبريل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لي جلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من فضله عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق النبي واصطفاني برسالته نجم ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم ملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي إذن والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبي واصطفاني بالرسالة نجم ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه إلهي أمين ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه إلهي ولا طالب الحاجة إلا وقضي الله حاجته إلهي أمين. فقال علي والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا وفازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على سورہ فاتحہ آج کے اسپانسر کے محرومین کے لیے اپنے محرومین کے لیے بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم الحمدللہ رب العالمین الرحمن الرحیم مالک یوم الدین ایاک نعبد و نستعین اهدنا الصراط المستقیم صلی اللہ
جزاک اللہ. یہ تھے جناب اعجاز خزلبہ جو حدیث قصہ کی تلاوت کر رہے تھے. اب ہم صوت سلام و مرثیہ خوانی کا آغاز کر رہے ہیں. میں سب سے پہلے گزارش کر رہا ہوں اسماعیل حسن سے کہ وہ آئیں اور سلام پیش کریں. اسماعیل حسن پر محمد وآل محمد بآواز بلند نعرہ صلوات. صلی علی محمد وآل محمد.
السلام علیکم. ایک اور صلوات بھیج دیجیے. اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. الوداع نانا الوداع نانا ہے الوداع نانا چلا ہوں سر کٹانے کے لیے جا رہا ہوں میں بیابان جا رہا ہوں میں بیابان بسانے کے لیے الوداع نانا چلا ہوں الوداع نانا گلستان مصطفیٰ کے گل چلے ہیں دشت کو گلستان مصطفیٰ کے گل چلے ہیں دشت کو آ گئی امت نبی کی آ گئی امت نبی کی ظلم ڈھانے کے لیے الوداع نانا ہائے الوداع نانا چلا ہوں سر کٹانے کے لیے دیکھ کر روتے ہیں اکبر حالات بیمار کو ہے کھڑی در پر وہ دیکھو ہے کھڑی در پر وہ دیکھو ساتھ جانے کے لیے الوداع نانا چلا ہوں سر کٹانے کے لیے سارا کنبہ جا رہا ہے نصرت حق کے لیے سارا کنبہ جا رہا ہے نصرت حق کے لیے رہ گئی بیمار گھر میں رہ گئی بیمار گھر میں غم اٹھانے کے لیے الوداع نانا ہے الوداع نانا چلا ہوں سر کٹانے کے لیے چوم لے گی سینہ اکبر کو نیزے کی یعنی اور چلے ہیں ساتھ اصغر اور چلے ہیں ساتھ اصغر تیر کھانے کے لیے الوداع نانا ہائے الوداع نانا ایک بہن بھائی کی گھر میں منتظر رہ جائے گی ایک بہن بھائی کی گھر میں منتظر رہ جائے گی ایک چلی ہے شام کا زن ایک چلی ہے شام کا زندہ بسانے کے لیے الوداع نانا چلا ہوں سر کٹانے کے لیے. آخری بند. ہر طرف پامال ہوگا بن میں قاسم کا بدن. ہر طرف پامال ہوگا بن میں قاسم کا بدن. باپ تنہا ہوگا اکبر، باپ تنہا ہوگا اکبر کو اٹھانے کے لیے الوداع نانا. ہائے الوداع نانا چلا ہوں دی بچانے کے لیے. جا رہا ہوں میں بیاباں، جا رہا ہوں میں بیاباں کو بسانے کے لیے الوداع نانا. ہائے الوداع نانا. صلوات.
جزاک اللہ جزاک اللہ. یہ تھے جناب اسماعیل حسن جو سلام پیش کر رہے تھے. اب میں گزارش کر رہا ہوں مشرف اور ہم نوا سے، مشرف عباس اور ہم نوا سے کہ وہ آئیں اور سفر امام حسین کی مناسبت سے مرثیہ خوانی کریں. پر محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
سفر امام حسین علیہ السلام کی مناسبت سے یہ مجلس ہے اور اسی مناسبت سے مرثیے کے چند بند پیش کر رہا ہوں. سورہ فاتحہ. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. اللہم صلی علی درود بآواز بلند.
اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
گھر سے جب بہرے سفر سید عالم نکلے، سر جھکائے ہوئے بادیدہ پرنم نکلے، خویش و فرزند پرے باندھ کے باہم نکلے، رو کے فرمایا کہ اس شہر سے اب ہم نکلے، رو کے فرمایا کہ اس شہر سے اب ہم نکلے، رات سے گریہ زہرا کی صدا آتی ہے، دیکھیں قسمت ہمیں کس دشت میں لے جاتی ہے، رخ کیا شہ نے سوئے قبر شہنشاہ انا بہر تسلیم جھکے متصل باب سلام اذن پا کر جو گئے قبر کے نزدیک امام عرض کی آیا ہے آج آخری رخصت کو غلام یہ مکان ہم سے اب اے شاہ زمن چھٹتا ہے آج حضرت کے نواسے سے وطن چھٹتا ہے آج حضرت کے نواسے سے وطن چھٹتا ہے چین سے سب ہیں گھروں میں مجھے ملتا نہیں چین سخت آفت میں ہے اب آپ کا یہ نور العین ٹکڑے دل ہوتا ہے جب رو کے حرم کرتے ہیں بین ننھے بچوں کو بھلا لے کے کدھر جائے حسین شہر میں چین نہ جنگل میں امان ملتی ہے دیکھیے قبر مسافر کو کہاں ملتی ہے یہ وہ دن ہے کہ پرندے بھی نہیں چھوڑتے گھر مجھ کو درپیش ہے ان روزوں میں آفت کا سفر ساتھ بچوں کا ہے اے بادشاہ جن و بشر ہے کہیں قتل کا سامان کہیں لٹ جانے کا ڈر تنگ جینے سے ہوں پاس اپنے بلا لو نانا اپنی تربت میں نواسے کو چھپا لو نانا یہ بیاں کر کے جو تعویذ سے لپٹے سرور یوں ہلی قبر کے تھرائی زری ہے انور آئی تربت سے یہ آواز حبیب دعوت تیری غربت کے میں صدقے میرے مظلوم پہ سر کوئی سمجھانا میری گود کا پالا تجھ کو آئے آدان مدینے سے نکالا تجھ کو کئی دن سے تیری مادر کو نہیں قبر میں چین آئی تھی شب کو میرے پاس یہ کرتی ہوئی بین گھر میرا لٹتا ہے فریاد رسول ثقلین صبح کو اپنا وطن چھوڑ کے جاتا ہے حسین کہنے آئی ہوں کہ منہ قبر سے موڑوں گی میں اپنے بچے کو اکیلا تو نہ چھوڑوں گی میں اپنے بچے کو اکیلا تو نہ چھوڑوں گی میں شہ پکارے کہ خدا حافظ و ناصر اماں آپ سے ہوتا ہے رخصت یہ مسافر اماں مدت زیست ہوئی مدت زیست کوئی دم میں ہے آخر اماں اب نہیں آس کے آنا ہو یہاں پھر اماں سمجھتے ہم لہدیں ایک ہی جا ہویں گے کیا قیامت ہے کہ قبریں بھی جدا ہوئیں گے، یہ بیاں کر کے چلے وہاں سے شہ کون و مکان، بے کسی چہرے پہ چھائی تھی تو آنسو تھے رواں، لوگ سر پیٹ کے اس دم ہوئے یوں گریہ کناں، پیچھے تابوت کے جس طرح سے ہوشیار فغاں، پیچھے تابوت کے جس طرح سے ہوشور فغاں، غل تھا اے سید ذی جاہ خدا کو سونپا، اے مدینے کے شہنشاہ خدا کو سونپا، اے مدینے کے شہنشاہ خدا کو سونپا، گھر سے جب بحر سفر سید عالم نکلے،
Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. Tonight's program, in which we are commemorating the departure of our third Imam from Medina, is sponsored by the family of Marhum Razi Hussain. Wanted to recognize and thank this family for their generous participation, and ask that you join me in praying for this family, this marhum, and all of their marhumin. Just a reminder that on Saturday, February 1st, we will be celebrating the births of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, and Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Our guest speaker for that program will be Hujjatul Islam Maulana Qasid Abbas Hussaini. Please join us for that program again on Saturday, February 1st, along with your families and friends. Further details will be provided via WhatsApp and email. And now to continue tonight's Majlis, I'd like to invite Sheikh Bilal Hussain to address the gathering. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. Before we begin, inshallah, let's remember all the marhumin: Marhum Razi Hussain, Ibn Mahdi Hassan, Sarwat Jahan, Bint Agha Tasadduq Abbas, Muhammad Raza Abbas, Ibn Agha Mudassir Abbas, and Marhum Dilshad Mahmood, Bint Ali Mirza Beg, with one Surah Fatiha, 3 times Surah Ikhlas, and your loudest of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. الحمد لله رب العالمين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، واللعنة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما وليكم الله ورسوله والذين آمنوا الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويأتون الزكاة وهم راكعون. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. Your second salawat for love of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. And your loudest salawat for ta'jil faraj sahib al-asr wa zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. Tonight's majlis, marking the 28th of the month of Rajab, is often considered the start of the event of Karbala. And it is one of the reasons why we hold a majlis, is that if we hold majalis for the event of Karbala, then the start of Karbala is something that we mourn as well. Tonight's discussion is in 3 points to note to establish some of the fundamentals of what is Karbala. And there's 3 points that we'll cover. 1, when did the event of Karbala actually begin? 2, if today is the day that Imam leaves the city of Medina, why did he not take everybody from Medina with him? And 3, if there were people left behind, why did he take Sayyidah Zainab with him and not leave her behind? So inshallah, with these 3 points, we'll commemorate the significance of this day, learn more about the event and what took place, and continue to build our attachment to the message of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. When was the start of the event of Karbala? This discussion about when the event of Karbala begins can be elaborated in a few different ways. 1, we can look at it and say that when is it that the Imam was forced to stop in the land of Karbala, and when did that event actually take place? 2, what was the series of events that began the process of the Imam reaching Karbala and being forced to be in the land of Karbala? Or another way of looking at this is to try and understand when did the event of Karbala begin, that when were the foundations of the event of Karbala laid? To answer this question, there's a few different perspectives that are taken. Some who take a look at the actual physical history of the event, others who take a look at, for example, the silsila, and finally those who look at and say that when we understand the foundations of how Karbala took place, we have to go back to the very advent of where the separation between the authority of the Imam and the authority of the Khalifa was established. To look at this, we can see the verse that we began our discussion with is known as the Ayah of Wilayah. Ayah of Wilayah is one of the important verses of Quran that all mu'mineen should be familiar with. This is the 55th verse of the 5th chapter of the Holy Quran. There are some verses in the Holy Quran that anyone who professes Iman in the true message of Islam, they should have a familiarity with. For example, Ayat-e-Tathir, Ayat-e-Mubahila, Ayah of Mawadda, Ayah of including Wilayah. And the aspect of understanding Ayah of Wilayah is very straightforward, that it's a very simple verse, 555, similar to Ayat-e-Tathir, 33. Chapter 33, verse 33 is Ayah Tathir, and 555 is Ayah of Wilayah. In Ayah of Wilayah, Allah describes the authority that He extends to the Prophet and the people in authority over the mu'mineen. Allah says, إِنَّمَا وَلِيُّكُمُ Allah. Certainly Allah is your wali. Wali in the Arabic language can have many meanings, but when it extends to Allah, wali is not referring to your friend, but the one who has absolute authority over you. وَالرَّسُولَهُ. And then Allah extends and He says, my authority, the authority that is over you, I extend that exact same authority to Rasulullah. And then Allah continues and He uses the same wa al-ataf, meaning that authority that Allah possesses, Rasulullah possesses, wa and someone else possesses, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. And those who keep faith have the same authority over you that Rasulullah has over you. Now a person would ask, what does this mean? What kind of a person is it that has the same authority over me that Rasulullah possesses? Here Allah elaborates in the same verse and doesn't let you go any further. Allah explains, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. I'll tell you who they are. الَّذِينَ. They are those يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيَعْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَهُمْ رَاقِعُونَ. That those who have authority over you, just like Rasulullah, will be those mu'mineen who when they perform their prayers, they give zakat in their prayers. And they will be the ones who have the same authority to you as Rasulullah has, as Allah has. When we look at this verse, there is no disagreement from any Muslim. This is why Ayah of Wilayah is so important. every Muslim knows the same source for ayah of wilayah. That they say that Rasulullah made dua to Allah, oh Allah, give me my Khalifa the way you gave Harun to Musa. Allah revealed this verse. Rasulullah came to the masjid and said, has something happened? They said, yes, we saw Ali ibn Abi Talib praying. A man came, asked for charity. No one answered him. Ali, in the state of ruku, extended his finger. The beggar took the ring from Ali's hand. Here Allah says that that one is your wali that gives zakat in the state of ruku. Ya Ali. Had the people appreciated this ayah of wilayah and understood the authority that Allah extended to Ali ibn Abi Talib, the event of Karbala would have never taken place. But what happened? The definition and the understanding of the authority of Rasulullah was something that was confused amongst the people. If there are people in this world today who don't believe in the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt, they have a way of justifying their actions. No one is lost on purpose and says, yes, I want to be lost. No, they become lost because they make mistakes along the way. What was the mistake that was made in Saqifa? What happens after the shahadat of Rasulullah that caused people to be confused? You see, our Prophet's risalah is a miracle in every aspect. Today we celebrated Mab'ath. Today we celebrated Bi'that, the enunciation of the message. This message, in 23 years, what Rasulullah accomplished, no Nabi before him accomplished, and no one after him ever can accomplish. In 23 years, our Prophet not only laid the foundations of religion, but also of government. And not just any government. If you pay attention to the history of the world, Arabia at that time, at the advent of our Prophet, had the Persian Empire to one side and the Roman Empire to the other side. The Nubians to the south, and many of these that had been around for over 1,000 years. Yet you notice amongst all of these empires, not one conquered Arabia. Arabia had never been conquered. The Romans couldn't do it, the Persians couldn't do it. And when the empire from the south came up, what did we see? Am al-Fil, that the elephants in the army were destroyed, but no one could conquer that city of Mecca. Had never been done before. Was not considered physically possible. If the Romans couldn't do it, the Persians couldn't do it. Yet our Prophet in less than 10 years established that government. And that government being established in this land that no one could conquer is in itself a miracle. Even if we ignored everything else that Rasulullah brought us, the idea that that location that was unconquerable by anyone else, in less than 10 years, 1,000-year-old empires couldn't do what our Prophet did in less than 10 years. And this is why there is no shortcoming when we discuss La sayfa illa dhul fiqar, because there is no fatah, there is no victory for Rasulullah without Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. These Arabs, these ignorant Arabs, many of whom submitted to the religion of Islam. Why? Because they saw something happen that had never happened before, an empire established, a land conquered, a people unified that had never been done before. They came to Islam. Some came willingly, many came by the fact that they had nowhere else to go and there was no other place to be. When finally our Prophet conquered the city of Mecca through peaceful conquest that was considered impossible. That not a few years ago, 10,000 men came under the call of the Quraysh to try and attack and destroy the Holy Prophet. And now our Prophet took that same city that originated an army of 10,000 that had never seen before and conquered it without bloodshed. It was considered impossible. So they had no choice. They came to the religion of Islam. Now at the shahadat of the Prophet, these people who came to Islam through this means of force, they looked at this not as a religion but as a government. And they looked to see what was the tactical approach of running a government. And they looked to see and they said that on the one hand we have Ali ibn Abi Talib, who is a man of 30 years of age. How can we give the government of an entire nation that has never been established to a 30-year-old man? one who has killed many of these people, one who does not change his morals or his opinion for anything. How can we give him the authority of this nation? And they became afraid, and they elected someone who was older and more mature. And they looked at Islam as a government, not as a religion. And they took over the process of governance and they stole it away from the Ahlul Bayt where Allah placed it, and they looked at half of the message of Islam, or a quarter of the message of Islam, and they saw government. And they said, we take the government. Now, to take the government and to have the ability to govern over this land, they also had to say, yes, we are also the religious leaders of this land. We are also the sources of guidance and hidayah. But there was no way for them to justify their hidayah and guidance in religion, so they continued to cause inhiraf and bring change to the religion. Do you guys have time? Shall I give you an example of this? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In Madhab Ja'fari, there is a very interesting break in history. If you take a look prior to Allama Hilli, you'll see that every alim says ijtihad haram. And after Allama Hilli, every alim says ijtihad wajib. Now someone who's unfamiliar looks at this and says, look, there was some innovation in Madhab Ja'fari that once they say it's haram and now they say it's wajib. No, you have to know the depth of the Arabic language to understand what changed. In the Arabic language, one term can have many meanings, and one term can be popular for one meaning and then it can change. An example of this is the kalimat salat. Kalimat salat before the advent of Islam meant prayers in general, dua. After the advent of our Holy Prophet, salat became exclusively the meaning of namaz as we pray it. So when you look at hadith, sometimes you'll see salat and it's talking about dua, and other times you'll see salat and it's talking about this namaz. Why? Because the kalimat changed. It happens in English too. When I say the word mouse, now what comes to your mind is what I use with a computer. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, okay, let's say 30 years ago, you said mouse, you would think of this little animal running around that you don't want in your house. So meaning a term, depending upon context and time, changes its meaning. The same way this kalimat al-ijtihad began with one meaning and then it changed. Today that kalimat al-ijtihad is wajib. Why? Because ijtihad is now used in the meaning of juhad and struggle in searching and finding for the hukm of Islam. And it is wajib upon Madhab Ja'fari and the ulama and of the people to do juhad and struggle to find the meaning of what Allah commands us to do. But in the advent of Islam, this ijtihad had the meaning of one expressing their opinion and saying that my opinion is what I then enact in this faith. In the beginning of Islam, how did they justify stealing the rights away from Ahlul Bayt? Is they said, yes, Rasulullah brought us Quran, but he also brought us his ijtihad, meaning he brought us his opinion, na'uzubillah. And that anyone who is a Sahabi, who was a companion of the Prophet, has the right of ijtihad, meaning the right to express their opinion, and that expression of their opinion can become a part of the religion. Why? Because they saw the Holy Prophet. And they use this as the excuse to say, yes, we have the right to express our responsibility of the religion of Islam because nahnu ahl al-ijtihad. We are the right of ijtihad, of sharing our opinion. They use this so much that when we see the battle between Mal'un Muawiyah and Amir al-Mu'mineen in Battle of Siffin, today if you ask all of the other general Muslims and you ask them, these are two people who were responsible for the death of Muslimin. It must be that one is wrong, one is right. They say, no, they're both right. How can both be right? Hum ahl al-ijtihad. They had the right to express their opinion. Muawiyah fighting, hada ijtihad. Ali ibn Abi Talib fighting, hada al-ijtihad. They'll both be rewarded for the fact that they went to war. Allah will be happy with both of them. This expression of ijtihad was how they justified and said that we can take the right of government away from Amir al-Mu'min, away from the Ahlul Bayt, because he and I were both with Rasulullah, so he and I can express our ijtihad. This was the justification. And we saw that in the beginning, they tried to be fearful people. They tried to, for example, say that yes, we pray, we fast. And on this basis, they established and said the government is the most important thing. The proof that they believed that government was the most important thing and that government was the most valuable thing, and this was all on the basis of the fact that they had conquered lands that had never conquered before. Look and see what the first Khalifa does until all the way through the Banu Abbas. They perform conquests. Abu Bakr begins the expansion of this government out into the borders of Persia, out against Rome, out into the lands of Africa. And this process of expansion continues and continues and continues and continues to the extent where, as we were recently commemorating the shahadat of our seventh Imam Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim alayhi salam, the ufuq, the peak of conquest took place in the life of Imam Kadhim. Yet we don't talk about it. Why? Because the consequence of those conquests was the abuse of Ahlul Bayt. And we, the lovers of Ahlul Bayt, prefer the Ahlul Bayt over anything you can tell me in history. But where does this battle of Karbala begin? It begins from this moment of compromising the position and authority of Rasulullah. That Rasulullah was more a government leader than he was a religious leader. So it justified that as long as the government is preserved and the authority of the government continues, then yes, we can speak on religion, but what's the importance? And that even if you weren't a great religious person, you could lead the government if you were put into power to lead the government. And they kept compromising. The first Khalifa, the second Khalifa, the third Khalifa. After the third Khalifa, it got so bad, that the people themselves revolted and refused to accept the authority of these Khulafa and said the only one that we will accept is Ali ibn Abi Talib. The only person elected to the position of Khilafat from then until today, by the people themselves, that the majority of people stood up and said, we will not accept your authority anymore, was this Ali ibn Abi Talib. And then after him, again, it reverted back into that process of whoever could take the might and authority, took the might and authority. But still they had some shame. Until it came after Muawiyah. And that the son of Muawiyah was a completely indecent man and had no position in religion. Yet people still looked to the title of Khalifa as someone who represented religion and government. And Muawiyah took his son and said, you will become the leader of the government. And people said, but he's a horrible man. Not just us. Even in the time of Muawiyah, when he insisted on his son becoming the leader, people stood up and said, this man is a drinker of alcohol, he is an abusive man, he is a horrible human being. And Muawiyah, to insist on this, started the process of assassination and killing off anyone who criticized his son, or abusing anyone who criticized his son, or throwing them in jail, so as to preserve that his son would take authority. If the event of Karbala had not taken place, and religion and Khilafat had remained tied, the image of the Khalifa would be the representation of faith, and Yazid Mal'un at that point in time would have changed the entire religion of Islam. One of the practical realities was of the event of Karbala, that not just for us, but for all of the Muslimin, that Khilafat and religious authority were separated. That the Khilafat remained a kingship, and Islam became separate and independent. The proof of this you'll see that after this dawr of these Khulafa, after the event of Karbala, every Khalifa kept religious advisors and scholars in his court. He did not dare to speak about the religion on his own right. He counted on someone else to tell him what the religion demands rather than him say, I will tell you what the religion demands. Therefore, if we want to look at when the advent of Karbala begins, it does begin in Saqifa. Because in Saqifa is when they began the process of separating the religious authority from the governmental authority. And at the breaking point of that takes place in the life of Imam Hussain, when this Mal'oon Yazid steps up and he says, I will be the leader of the government. And Imam Hussain answers and says, Mithli la yubai' mithluhu. That one such as me does not give submission and bay'ah to one such as him. That he cannot hold the authority of religion and government in one person, because he is an evil, fasiq, sinner who is outside of the religion of Islam. So to understand, yes, the physical dates of the transition of Imam Hussain leaving the city of Medina begin today. But the event of how Karbala takes place is the process of separating religious authority from governmental authority that Allah had mandated in ayah of wilayah. And had people stayed with the ayah of wilayah and paid attention to where authority goes, and not feared for the fact that this government that has been established that is new and has never been done before, they would have accepted that Allah gave us this government, Allah will preserve this government. They instead thought, no, we have to preserve this government. And therefore they separated from what Allah's path was in fear of this loss of wealth. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The 28th of Saffer is interesting for another reason, in the fact that this is the first time that the Ahlul Bayt have to leave Medina by force. After this, we see our 7th Imam, our 8th Imam, our 9th Imam, our 10th Imam, and to some argument our 11th Imam are all forced to leave the city of Medina and are eventually made shaheed by this event. But the first time it takes place, the first time an Imam is forced to leave this city is the 28th of Rajab. This leaving of the city, the Imam finds himself in a situation where he is called to the governor's palace in the middle of the night. Walid bin Utbah, who was the governor of the time, who was a fasiq himself, who was a sinner himself, who was denigrated to this position that he eventually became the Khalifa of Medina, receives a letter that says that the previous Khalifa is dead, Yazid will be the new one. Get us the oath of allegiance from these personalities or kill them. This entire process, when this letter comes and the demand is made for the Imam and a few other people to go to the Dar al-Hukma, to go to the Dar al-Hukuma, to go to the office of the governor, Imam Hussain immediately says that if I'm being called to the governor's palace in the middle of the night, it is in the interest that they want to seek my allegiance before the public becomes aware, and there is a potential for an uprising against the government as it was done in the time of the 3rd Khalifa. Because the oppression was the same. Time of the 3rd Khalifa, the oppression had got so much that as soon as he died, the people rose up and went to the door of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So before the Khalifa's plan was, before the people become aware and they rise up in support of someone, we will seek and elect all of the support we can before that time comes place. So Imam says, I know they are calling me to ask me for this oath of allegiance. And the Imam says, I will go, I will meet them. But he does something interesting that he says, come with me, my family, and stand outside of the door of the palace of the governor. And if you should hear my voice raised, come inside. This exchange that takes place, and why the Imam does this, is the Imam also knows that they will ask me for the oath of allegiance, and if I refuse to give it, which I will, they will attempt to assassinate me. So I will bring my own support with me, that if I fear the event of assassination is about to take place, my support will come and extricate me from the situation. That extrication that Imam uses as a tool, and Walid comes and he shows him the letter and says, I've been asked to take your bay'ah from you, or it is your life that will be asked for. And Imam says, I won't give you this bay'ah, come to me tomorrow. Walid says, you're reading the letter, it has to be done now. The Imam says, who would believe that someone like me gave you bay'ah unless if they see it? So we'll do this during the day when people can be witness to this event, otherwise no one will accept it. Now Walid was a man of weak character. He was a man of weak character. He had his flaws, and if he was a sinner, he was not the worst. So he knew that when he needed to complete this task, he couldn't. So he kept with him one who was even worse than him, which was Marwan. Marwan was an evil man who did any evil deed that was necessary, and he was the guy who you called in that would do any horrible thing. Walid says, Marwan, come with me. I don't know if I can do this myself. You come and help me. Marwan bears witness to this exchange between the governor and Imam Hussain. And Marwan says, Walid, if you don't do this now and you don't kill him now, he will cause sedition and cause strife and he will cause trouble for you. Kill him now. So Marwan is the one who pushes for the assassination immediately. In reply to this, Imam Hussain raises his voice and says, who amongst you has the dare to come and attack one like me? And at the raising of his voice, in come in the young of the Banu Hashim, prepared in the defense of the Imam to prevent the assassination. And the Imam extricates himself, leaves this environment, and the process of leaving the city of Medina begins. That now, if the Imam stays in Medina, that the chances are that they will try to assassinate him in the night, and that is not his goal. They intend to keep quiet about where Khilafat goes until they have established firmly the authority of Yazid, and therefore the Imam needs to leave this city before he's assassinated. So why doesn't Imam take everyone with him? There are actually letters that Muawiyah had written and said that there are certain personalities that are present in Medina. Had they not been present, I would sack the city of Medina and take over. And amongst them were personalities like Imam Hussain, like Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, like Muhammad Hanafiya, like Abdullah ibn Ja'far. These were children who were raised by Amir al-Mu'mineen and were the fiercest of champions of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the battles of Siffin and Nahrawan and Jamal. All of them. Muhammad Hanafiya, there's a famous story about his presence in the battle of Jamal. You guys have a few minutes? Everybody's awake? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ya Ali. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. I'm conscious of the time and it's a weeknight, but if you're with me, I'll share with you. In the battle of Jamal, Muhammad Hanafiya is at one point in time given the alam from Amir al-Mu'mineen and given a spear, and sent Muhammad Hanafiya go and kill the camel upon which their leader sits. Who their leader is, you know, I don't need to say anything. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, you're my son, go. Muhammad Hanafiya takes the spear and he attacks. And the spear is made to kill this camel, and when the camel falls, the same way, for example, in an army, there would be an alam. When the alam falls, the army falls. In this army, the camel was the alam, and when the camel would fall, army would break. So Imam sends Muhammad Hanafiya, and Muhammad Hanafiya is a brave man. He is a champion. Muhammad Hanafiya attacks. But what they had done is they had made circles around the camel of soldiers, all in different directions. And to break to the camel, you had to break through every single circle. Muhammad Hanafiya attacked and attacked and attacked, but he could not break all of the circles of security, and he came back without killing the camel. Imam Ali took the spear from him and turned to Imam Hassan and said, Hassan, you go. Where Muhammad Hanafiya failed, they said we had not seen a battle like this since Ali ibn Abi Talib, that Hassan ibn Mujtaba entered and he killed one circle and broke the circle until he was the one who then killed that camel and dropped this entire army support by the killing of that camel. The entire army cheered as Imam Hassan broke the back of the army of the opposers of Imam Ali. But Muhammad Hanafiya became sad. And Imam Ali turns to him and he says, oh Muhammad, don't be disappointed. This is the difference between you who are my son and he who is the son of Rasulullah. That there's no comparison between you and Hassan ibn Mujtaba. These were the personalities who were present in the city of Medina that Muawiyah says, I fear such soldiers like this, that by their presence I will never sack the city of Medina. So then the question comes, when the time came for Imam to leave the city of Medina, why didn't he take all of them with him? Abdullah ibn Ja'far is another person, an azim personality, the husband of Sayyidah Zainab, the one raised with Imam Hassan and Hussein. If we were to sit, we don't have the time to elaborate on who and what that person is. But why then didn't the Imam take both of these with him? Why did he not take every champion with him that he could, if he was going to leave and stand against this oppressive government? And to understand that, you have to take a look and see what was the intent of the Banu Umayyah when they wanted to attack Imam Hussain. Their goal was not just to kill Imam Hussain. Their goal was to wipe out the Banu Hashim entirely. With that being the goal, the Imam doesn't take all of his support with him. No, he leaves some of the support in Medina so that there's something to come back to. Mahallai Bani Hashim, as we recognize, and the elders of ours who have been to Medina in that day when it was still present, is a place right by the grave of the Rasul where the entire Mahalla, all of the houses of the Banu Hashim were preserved. If they had all left this area, then the Banu Umayyah and Yazid would have wiped out everything and stolen every piece of property, and the mention of Ahlul Bayt from the city of Medina would have been wiped. Imam, to protect the possessions of the Ahlul Bayt, to preserve the mention of Ahlul Bayt in Medina, leaves some of his strong supporters in the city of Medina to protect the rights and property of Ahlul Bayt. Otherwise, as soon as they would have left, the Khulafa would have stolen everything and said, you have nothing in this city. So the Imam intentionally doesn't bring everyone with him. The Imam intentionally leaves behind a section of support in the city of Medina so that there is something to come back to after the event of Karbala. So that there is a mention of the children and the family of Rasulullah in the city of Medina, and all of their properties, their houses, and their mention is not usurped and destroyed in this city. So the Imam's strategy was not just simply that there is going to be a battle and I need everything in the battle. He also thought after the battle. And that after the battle, the mention of the Ahlul Bayt cannot be wiped from this city, and that the Ahlul Bayt have to remain attached to the city of Medina. You see, today we can do ziyarat in Karbala, we can do ziyarat in Najaf, we can do ziyarat in Kazmiya, we can do ziyarat in Samarra, and some of us will even go so far as to say, there we say, Ashhadu anna Aliyan Waliullah, and we feel comfort in our heart. We want to pray on Turba, we are very happy. But never forget the Ahlul Bayt stayed attached to Medina, and that we need to stay attached to Medina. All of the Imams cried at leaving Medina. That's a message to us that don't leave Medina. Don't leave the Prophet. Insist on being with the Ahlul Bayt, no matter how difficult it is. You think your difficulty or my difficulty won't be recognized by those that we go to visit? You think Rasulullah wouldn't appreciate that we made such efforts and went against such difficult people for his love? You think the Ahlul Bayt would ignore that even in Baqi we stood by them when they wouldn't let us stand by them? No, Medina is very important to us. Every Imam wept when they were forced to leave Medina. Which brings us to our third question. Why did then Imam, if he was going to leave behind support, not leave Sayyidah Zainab behind when he left the city of Medina? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When we look at the ladies of Ahlul Bayt, we can't appreciate what their status is. We really can't. The ladies of the Ahlul Bayt and the ladies in the religion of Islam have played a central role in the preservation of Islam. Whether you look at Sayyidah Khadija, and Sayyidah Khadija, the religion of Islam stands on two pillars, the wealth of Sayyidah Khadija and the sword of Ali ibn Abi Talib. You take a look at Sayyidah Zahra, who was the first to stand up for imamat and to sacrifice her life for the protection of imamat. You look at Bibi Narjis and Bibi Hakima, who after the shahadat of the 11th Imam preserved the religion of Islam. You look at Sayyidah Ma'suma, who stood and gave and taught the lessons of Islam when her father was imprisoned and became one of the guides and teachers for humanity. Throughout the history of Islam, you'll find that there are certain significant women who stood for the message of Islam and were appointed to stand for the message of Islam to make sure that Islam persisted in very difficult situations. One of those people, who is second and only in Adhamat to her mother Sayyidah Zahra, is the Sayyidah Zainab. The Imam taking Sayyidah Zainab with him has multiple benefits, and the hikmat of this action can be seen in many ways. One, we see that she was taken along that after the event of Karbala, when the imamat would be in danger, the only one who could protect the imam would be Sayyidah Zainab. And she did. How? Mal'un, after the murder of Imam Hussain, Shimr, when he comes to the tents and sees one of the sons of Imam Hussain alive, he says, I shall kill him now. It is Sayyidah Zainab who throws herself over the body of her nephew and says that if you intend to kill him, you must kill me first. And an Arab soldier who took pride in his battle could not kill a woman Otherwise, he would be disgraced in the worst of society, even in his own eyes. And he says, then your aunt has saved you. When Mal'un wants to do the same in the city of Kufa, it is Sayyidah Zainab who saves the life of Imam Zain al-Abidin. And had it not been for her, it would not have been possible for the Imam to have survived the event of Kufa. Same in Sham. There were words that needed to be spoken to the people that no one could have said except for Sayyidah Zainab, because had the Imam spoken them, he would have been assassinated immediately. When we make the statement that, for example, in the speech of Zainab, we hear the voice of Ali ibn Abi Talib, this was not a statement to say that her physical voice sounded like Amir al-Mu'mineen. It was not to say that, for example, she spoke words exactly like Imam Ali. It was that the hikmat and the wisdom that people had last heard from the mouth of Ali ibn Abi Talib, they were hearing that same wisdom and hikmat again from the mouth of Sayyidah Zainab. To ensure that people knew of the reality of Karbala was one of the realities why Sayyidah Zainab had to be present, that the reality of Karbala could not be spoken by anyone in that moment except by this one lady. And no Imam could have had the ability to speak up, lest that the position of Imamat would have been wiped out from this earth. This is one aspect. Another important aspect was, how did we know about the Imamat of Imam Zain al-Abidin? How did we know that this is the Imam? You see, today we can look back and we can say that we know there are 12 Imams, these are the Imams. And we know everyone and we say these are our 12 Imams. But the people who lived through those times, it wasn't so easy to know who the Imam was. You needed someone to show you who the Imam was. You needed someone who would be your proof and authority. In the life of, for example, our 7th Imam, it was very difficult to know who the Imam was. Why? Because the Banu Abbas had decided that we will, once we figure out who the Imam is, we'll kill him. So therefore the Imamat of Imam al-Kadhim was hidden from many people, and it was hard for them to find the Imam for a very long period of time, to the extent where many sects were established. Al-Waqifiyya, Al-Zaydiyya, Fatahiyya. All of these sects were established. Why? Because they couldn't openly come to the Imam. How do we know that after the event of Karbala that Imam Zain al-Abidin is the Imam? Why didn't go to Muhammad Hanafiya? Some did. They went to Muhammad Hanafiya and they said that we are closer through Muhammad Hanafiya to Amir al-Mu'mineen than we are through Ali ibn al-Hussain. Why? Muhammad Hanafiya was the son of Imam Ali. Imam Zain al-Abidin was the grandson of Imam Ali. So they said if Ali ibn Abi Talib is the Imam and his 2 sons are the Imam, then why not his 3rd son? How did we know where Imamat went? And this was one of the important roles that Sayyidah Zainab played. That she was amongst Ahl al-Kisa her entire life. Ahl al-Kisa were those people that every Muslim knew that these are the Ahl al-Bayt. These are the chosen ones from Allah. And that she had spent her entire life in the company of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Bibi Fatima, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussain. That when she stood up and said, هذا إمامكم علي بن الحسين زين العابدين عليه السلام صلوات على محمد. No one questioned it. No one said, how can we know that this is the next Imam? Today, the preservation of Imamat and the lack of break at Imam Zain al-Abidin after the event of Karbala is on the basis of the fact that Sayyidah Zainab was there to show us who is the Imam after Imam Hussain. The story that we tell that on the day of Ashura, when the tents were being burned, that Sayyidah Zainab comes and says, "Oh Ali ibn al-Hussain, they are burning the tents. Shall we exit the tents or can we die in these tents?" It's not just a musibah that we recite. This is the reality of showing to the world where is the authority of Allah on this earth. Today, you and I don't question who was the Imam. It's because of this Sayyidah Zainab made sure that everyone knew that I, of the Ahl al-Qisas, submit to the authority of Ali ibn al-Hussain. I call him my Imam. This is why when they returned, all of Medina accepted that Ali ibn al-Hussain is the Imam of Allah. He is the authority of Allah on this earth. The presence of Sayyidah Zainab preserved the Imam and was in the company of the Imam, that when she announced she was with Imam Hussain when he left, and she was with Imam Ali ibn al-Hussain when he began his Imam. that there could be no question about where authority went. Her presence in Karbala was the most authentic voice in history. Remember that when Sayyidah Khadija died, Allah sent 5 kafan from heaven. 5. The first was for Sayyidah Khadija, the second for Rasulullah, the third for Sayyidah Zahra. When these last 2 kafan were left, Imam Ali took them and gave them to Bibi Zainab and said, "You are the keeper of these kafan that have been sent from heaven." Such that at the shahadat of Imam Ali, famously Imam Hassan says, "Oh sister, give me from that kafan that Rasulullah left for us that Allah sent from heaven." And Sayyidah Zainab gave the kafan for Amir al-Mu'mineen. When Imam Hassan became shaheed, it was Imam Hussain who went and said, "Oh sister, give me the kafan that Allah sent from heaven, that this will be the kafan of our brother Hassan ibn Ali." It would be at that moment that Sayyidah Zainab would say, "Oh brother, where is your kafan? Why did Allah not send one for you?" Now when Sayyidah Zainab is preparing to leave the city of Medina, I wonder if she would ask, "We take these tabarrukat with us, but brother, your kafan is not coming with us. We have used all of the kafan. Then why is it that you are leaving and you are saying this is our last journey away, but there is no kafan for you?" This 28th of Rajab is an event of great difficulty and grief, that the first time when they are forced to leave, in what condition do they leave? They describe this night of the 28th as a night of ibadat. They are ibadat of this night. Why? Because they say when Imam Hussain left that governor's palace, he went to the grave of Rasulullah and spent this night in worship next to Rasulullah. And they say that in that night of worship, when sleep overtook him, he was as if he was standing in front of Rasulullah and weeping in front of his grandfather, "Ya Rasulullah, I have never been away from you. I have never been separated from you. My grief is that I have to leave you, Ya Rasulullah." There's a statement that is famously narrated that the Imam makes which breaks the heart. He says, "Oh grandfather, why can't I enter your grave with you and stay here with you?" And Rasulullah replies and he says, "Oh Hussein, Allah has prepared a status for you in heaven that is so high it cannot be reached without shahadat. And therefore Allah has appointed for you a special position you must attain." They describe and say that this was amongst the last communications as he bid farewell to his grandfather before he left the city of Medina. There is a famous discussion that narrates, that many ulama have narrated, that said that there is one other grave that Imam Hussain went to bid farewell to. And the description is not of the grave itself, but of how Imam Hussain went to this grave. I have heard many respected ulama narrate the same way, that after visiting his grandfather, Imam Hussain went to the grave of his mother. But the way that he goes to the grave of Sayyidah Zahra, they describe and say, like a small child cries to his mother, so Hussain ibn Ali went to bid farewell to Zahra. There are two. One who when Imam Hussain leaves there is a narration, and one when Sayyidah Zainab comes back there is a narration. But now when he leaves, after this they gather, the Banu Hashim, they gather and they prepare to leave. The process of this caravan leaving is something fascinating to discuss, in which there is one very famous statement, that as everyone mounted their camels and mounted into their leaders to leave, at one point in time, famously his call is made, "O Ahl al-Medina, close your doors, turn away your eyes. Aqilatu Bani Hashim is coming into the street." This statement sometimes may astound a person about what was so unique and special that had to be done, that when Sayyidah Zainab comes out of her house, that everyone else has to go into their house. To understand this, look back at the traditions in the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that they describe that when Sayyidah Zainab would want to go visit the grave of Rasulullah, she would go in the middle of the night. Amir al-Mu'mineen would walk in front of her, and Imam Hassan and Hussain to either side.
and all of the candles of the streets of Medina would be put out, that none should look upon the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the daughter of Zahra. Such was the intent of the preservation of hijab. Why did they preserve the hijab of Sayyidah Zainab so much? Maybe they remembered the events of Sayyidah Zahra and how her hijab was violated. Therefore, hijab became the signature of this house, that our women's hijab will be preserved no matter what we must do, that no one again will break the door of our house, no one will strike the face of the children of Rasulullah again. Therefore, you hear the caller call out, "O men, O people of Medina, enter your houses, close your doors." Aqilatu Bani Hashim, the intellectual of the Bani Hashim, the princess of the Bani Hashim, comes out of her house. Every one of the Banu Hashim, those 18 brothers, those 18 family members, how they would have stood in honor and regard for the daughter of Zahra, how they would have mounted her into that litter, who would come forward for her protection. Remember, she has one brother that at the Shahadat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he took the chadar of Zainab and put it in the hands of Abbas and made the statement, "Oh Abbas, this Zainab is your responsibility." Today she is leaving that city and Abbas is the one who is present. Akbar is present. Imam Hussain is present. They all prepared to leave this city together in this condition that you would describe. But then look to Karbala, the 11th of Muharram, where now again that Qafila is preparing to leave. It is Zainab who mounted all of the ladies. The day of Ashura, it was Hussain ibn Ali who stood by his horse and turned to his shuhada and said, "O my brothers, O my friends, O my sons, I mounted each one of you on a horse. Is there no one to mount Hussain ibn Ali today?" And now it is Sayyidah Zainab who says, "Brother, I am leaving you." When this Qafila returns to Medina, it is Sayyidah Zainab who makes these two trips. That first she goes to the grave of Rasulullah. That, "Ya Rasulullah, an emissary left you. I am the emissary that returns to you. Ya Rasulullah, I went with Hussain. They killed your Hussain. I went to the bazaar. I gave the message. O Rasulullah, I never cried in front of them once. I fulfill the message that my Hussain left here with you." The same way that Imam Hussain bid farewell, Sayyidah Zainab came to the return and presented before Rasulullah the mission that went. But the same way that Imam Hussain went crying to his mother, they describe and say it was Sayyidah Zainab who said, "O Sajjad, take me to one other grave after this." She sat by the grave of her mother, complained to her of her difficulties. And in that she said, "Oh mother, you gave an amana to Hussain. You gave a shirt to Hussain. Mother, I return that amana to you now." They describe and say that bloody shirt that was ripped from the body of Abu Abdullah, Sayyidah Zainab placed upon the grave of her mother when she returns to Medina. They say the ground shook. They say in poetry, Sayyidah Zainab would say, "Mother, you saw the shirt of Hussain. I saw the chest of Hussain." ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رضا بقضائه وتسليما لأمره. ندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم. With tears in our eyes we raise our hands. 10 times we call out, Ya Allah, 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 Ya Allah. يا محمود بحق محمد، يا أعلى بحق علي، يا فاطر السماوات بحق فاطمة، يا محسن بحق الحسن،
Ya Qadim al-Ahsan bihaq al-Hussein. Oh Allah, accept this small ibadat from us. Ya Allah, give the thawab of this majlis to the marhumeen of tonight's sponsors, our marhumeen, and all those mu'mineen who are in need of dua. Ya Allah, by the right of this month of Rajab, by the right of those who are from this month of Rajab, and by the right of you giving us the tawfiq of istighfar, Ya Allah, forgive our sins and cover our flaws. Ya Allah, we have gathered here with hajat. By the right of the mention of Aba Abdullah, fulfill our hajat. Ya Allah, there are those amongst our families or communities who are sick and suffering through disease and difficulty. Give shifa to the mu'mineen wherever they are. Ya Allah, keep our children on the upright path of Islam. Hasten the reappearance of Sahib al-Zaman. Make us and our families from the upright supporters of Sahib al-Zaman. Entitle us to the ziyarat of Imam Hussain in this world and the shifa of Imam Hussain in the hereafter. One Surah Fatiha for all of our marhumeen with your loudest of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Matami Hussain.
Hussain, 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 Hussain,
جب کربلا کی راہ کو چلنے لگے حسین، رخصت جو ماں کی قبر سے ہونے لگے حسین، محشر بپا تھے بین جو کرنے لگے حسین، آواز آئی ماں کی نہ رو میرے دل کے چین، جائے گا تو جہاں میں تیرے ساتھ آؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال کہاں چین پاؤں گی، پالا ہے پیس پیس کے چکی سنبھالنا، اے کربلا نہ دیکھ میرا گھر اجاڑنا، بیٹے کا خون ماں ہوں کہاں دیکھ پاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، ٹکڑوں میں لاش کیسے جواں کی اٹھائے گا، قاسم کی ماں کو کیسے یہ منظر دکھائے گا، چادر میں سوچ کر تو یہی ساتھ لاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال پاؤں گی، اے لال بازو کٹے جو بھائی کہ خود کو سنبھالنا، کیسے تو کر سکے گا سکینہ کا سامنا، زینب کو بے ردائی سے کیسے بچاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال آخری جو تیرا امتحان ہو، ہاتھوں پہ تیرے ایک جو نلنی سی جان ہو، اصغر کو تیرے گود میں اپنی چھپاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، خنجر جو تیرے خشک گلے پہ چلائیں گے، زینب کے بین اور بھی مجھ کو رلائیں گے، ماتم میں سر کو کھول کے تیرا مناؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد شام غریب اور قیامت اٹھائے گی، زینب نہ جب سکینہ کو خیموں میں پائے گی، میں گود میں سکینہ کو اپنی سلاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، جائے گا تو جہاں میں تیرے ساتھ آؤں گی، اے لال اب لحد میں کہاں چین پاؤں گی، اے لال توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن، آ جا حسین آ جا، توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا تو جت لئیے جنگ کربل ابن حیدر زہرا دا گل بدن آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا تو جت لئیے جنگ کربل ابن حیدر زہرا دا گل بدن آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا کر سجدہ لم یزدا سجدے چی سر کٹا دے تیرا لہو شفا ہے اس خاک نو شفا دے کربل بنا مولا کر فوج اس کی یادیں تیرانو زیبتن آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا توحید آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا تیری ذات ہی ذات جس دے قریب ہاں میں میرا حبیب ہے تو تیرا حبیب ہاں میں میری ہے رضا مالک ممنون ہے خدا بھی اے فخر پایا کن آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے ناز مطمئن آجا حسین آجا آدم تو مصطفیٰ تک ہر ایک نبی ہے آیا تیرا حوصلے نو ویکھاں بابا علی ہے آیا سلطان نینوا دا درداں دا بادشاہ ہے تو ناز پنجے تیں آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا توحید کہہ رہی ہے اے نفس مطمئن آجا حسین آجا تو جت لئیے جنگ کربل ابن حیدر زہرا دا گل بدن آجا حسین آجا
السلام علیکہ یا ابا عبداللہ السلام علیکہ یا ابن رسول اللہ السلام علیکہ یا ابن امیر المومنین وابن سید الوسیین السلام علیکہ یا ابن فاطمۃ الزہراء سیدۃ نساء العالمین السلام علی الحسین وعلی علی ابن الحسین وعلی اولاد الحسین وعلی اصحاب الحسین السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ السلام علیکہ یا ابا الفضل العباس ابن امیر المومنین وقاسم ابن الحسن ومسلم ابن عقیل وہانی ابن عروہ وحبیب ابن مظاہر والحر الشہید ریاحی السلام علیکم جمیعاً شہداء کربلا و اسیران کربلا ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ السلام علیکہ یا غریب الغرباء السلام علیکہ یا معین الضعفاء والفقراء السلام علیکہ یا مغیث الشیعۃ والزوار فی یوم الجزاء السلطان یا ابا الحسن یا علی ابن موسیٰ الرضا روحی و جسمی لک الفداء ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ السلام علیکہ یا مولا یا صاحب العصر والزمان الامان 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 السلام علیکہ یا خلیفۃ الرحمن السلام علیکہ یا شریک القرآن السلام علیکہ یا مظہر الایمان السلام علیکہ یا امام الانس والجن اجل اللہ تعالی فرجک وسہل اللہ تعالی مخرجک وظہورک وجعلنا من اعوانك وانصارك رحمة الله وبركاته الصلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آله في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل